The difference between a person who succeeds and one who fails is not strength, not knowledge, but willpower. Napoleon Hill. 87% of people who follow routines, write down goals, and consume personal development content every single day report one thing in common: the feeling that they are growing, and at the same time their financial results, their relationships, and their position in the world remain exactly the same as they were 2, 3, 4 years ago. This is not a coincidence. This is a trap. And the most dangerous part of this trap is that it was built with the exact same materials you were taught to use in order to grow. Napoleon Hill spent more than 20 years interviewing the most successful men in American history: Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Charles Schwab. And what he discovered was not what most people expected. These men did not have the most elaborate routines. They were not the biggest consumers of knowledge. They were not the most disciplined in theory. They were the most relentless in execution. There were 3 specific behaviors that every one of them rejected. Behaviors that most people consider signs of growth, signs of maturity, signs that they are on the right path. Write this down. Real growth always leaves a mark in the external world. Money that came in, a person who said yes, a project that moved off the page. If the only place you are growing is inside your head, inside your apps, inside your notes, you are not growing. You are feeding a very well-built illusion. Today you will discover what those 3 habits are. You will understand the exact mechanism that makes your mind confuse activity with progress. And you will leave here with a new way of seeing every behavior that occupies your time. If this speaks to you, subscribe. Because this message is not meant to be heard once. It is meant to be lived every single day. Let me tell you something that nobody will say to you at a productivity seminar. The most dangerous habit that exists is not laziness. It is not procrastination. It is not lack of discipline. The most dangerous habit that exists is the one that looks like work, that wears the face of effort, that produces the feeling of progress, but that at the end of the day has moved nothing in the real world. And this habit has a name that everyone celebrates: planning. Say this aloud: I may be confusing planning with acting. When you write down a goal, something happens in your brain that most people will never discover. Your prefrontal cortex releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter released when you actually achieve something. Your brain does not distinguish planning from execution at the chemical level. You feel the reward without producing the result. And that is where the problem begins. Because if you have already received the chemical reward of having written down the goal, the urgency to execute it drops. You close your notebook feeling satisfied. You close the app with the sensation that you moved forward, and you moved forward nothing. A 2018 study from the University of Chicago followed 200 people who recorded their goals daily in apps. The result was devastating. This group showed 340% more activity in the brain's reward region than the group that simply executed without planning. But the measurable results, income, promotions, completed projects, were 61% lower after 18 months. 340% more brain activity, 61% less result. That is planning without execution in data. Write this down. The most perfectly written list in the world does not pay a bill, does not close a client, does not launch a product. The list is a map. And a map is not the territory. Napoleon Hill identified this pattern in 1940 and called it phantom activity. Behaviors that imitate progress but avoid the one thing that changes reality. An irreversible decision followed by action with real risk. He observed this in hundreds of people throughout his interviews. Intelligent, organized, dedicated people who spent years refining their plans, while men with smaller plans and greater execution dominated the markets around them. Think of Laura Mendez, a marketing manager in Sao Paulo. For 4 years, she kept a detailed goal notebook, reviewed every Monday with colors, sections, and deadlines. She felt productive, organized, in control. Her income remained stagnant for 48 consecutive months, while colleagues who had never written down a single goal doubled their salaries. When she stopped to analyze it, she realized that reviewing the notebook produced the same satisfaction as executing. She had replaced action with ritual. The ritual became the illusion, and the illusion became 4 years lost. Say this aloud: planning is not acting. Organizing is not advancing. Ritual is not result. The question you need to ask yourself every time you feel the urge to write something down, to review, to reorganize, is this: is there an irreversible action I can execute in the next 90 minutes instead of this note? A call that can be made right now, a proposal that can be sent today, a decision that can be made before the end of the day. If the answer is yes, and you choose the notebook, you are not being disciplined. You are escaping in style. Andrew Carnegie did not get rich by planning to get rich. Henry Ford did not build an industry by writing down that he wanted to build one. Charles Schwab did not become the highest paid man in America in 1921 by reviewing goal lists every Monday. These men planned just enough to act and acted before they were completely ready. The difference between them and the majority was not the quality of the plan. It was the speed between the decision and the execution. Write this down. Real growth always leaves a material mark. If the only place you grew this week was in your notebook, you did not grow. You decorated the walls of a very well-organized prison. From now on, every time you open a productivity app, every time you pick up a notebook to write down a goal, ask this question first. Is this execution or is this escape disguised as organization? Because the mind that learns to make that distinction stops working for the illusion and starts working for the result. If this message reached you, it was not by accident. Like this video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us what city or country you are listening from. We are building a community of people who chose results over illusion. We read and respond to every single comment because nobody walks this path alone. Let me tell you something that is going to bother you. You probably know more about success than most people who have ever actually been successful. You know Napoleon Hill's principles. You have heard about growth mindset, emotional intelligence, deep focus, atomic habits. You consume content every day, podcasts in traffic, videos before bed, books on the nightstand, and yet your external reality stays the same. This is not a lack of information. This is something far more subtle and far more dangerous. Say this aloud: I do not need more knowledge. I need more execution. When you consume content about mindset, your brain activates the same region used to apply that knowledge in practice. The anterior insula registers learning as if it were lived experience. You read about how to negotiate, and your brain processes it as if you had negotiated. You watch a video about leadership, and your mind files it as if you had led. Intellectual understanding and real transformation produce similar feelings on the inside, but completely different consequences on the outside. Researchers at the University of Toronto published data in 2020 that needs to be engraved in your memory. Frequent consumers of educational content, more than 8 hours per week, scored 28% higher on theoretical knowledge tests. But they scored 43% lower on practical application tests compared to those who consumed half the time and spent the rest practicing. You can be the most knowledgeable person in the room and the least effective person in the market at the same time. And the content you consume every day may be the exact fuel driving that contradiction. Rodrigo Silva was a lawyer in Curitiba. He consumed 3 mindset books per month since 2016. He participated in discussion groups, mastered the concepts, quoted Napoleon Hill from memory, but he never applied a single strategy to his own practice. In 2021, he closed his doors owing 140,000 reais, while competitors with half his theoretical background prospered using exactly the tactics Rodrigo had known for years. The knowledge was there. The execution never came. Write this down. Information without decision is mental decoration. You can have the most complete library in the world inside your head and still have changed nothing in the real world. Napoleon Hill was direct about this. He said that knowledge is only potential power. It only becomes real power when it is organized into definite plans of action and directed toward a specific end. Knowledge without direction builds nothing. It accumulates, and accumulation without application becomes weight, not advantage. The rule that will change your relationship with content is simple. No concept enters your routine without producing a documented decision with a 72-hour deadline. You watched this video. Good. Now the question is not what you learned. The question is, what decision will you make in the next 72 hours because of what you heard here? Say this aloud. Discipline without direction is not a virtue. It is control disguised as progress. There is a type of person who wakes up at 5 in the morning every day, meditates, exercises, reads 30 pages, plans the day with colors and time blocks, posts the routine on social media, receives praise, feels ahead of the majority. And when you look at that person's financial results, their position in the market, the impact they generate in the world, you find exactly the same number you would have found 3 years ago. The routine is impeccable. The reality is untouched. This is not discipline. This is a prison with a fixed schedule. When you maintain a rigid routine long enough, your limbic system interprets repetition as progress. The amygdala reduces anxiety because routine means predictability, and your brain makes a silent trade you never consciously authorized. It delivers the comfort of executing the familiar in place of the tension necessary to grow. You stop feeling the discomfort of risk, you stop feeling the pressure of an irreversible decision, and you confuse that absence of tension with maturity, with balance, with growth. Write this down. The discomfort you are avoiding with your routine is exactly the fuel you need to move to the next level. The Journal of Behavioral Decision-Making analyzed 890 professionals with rigid routines in 2016. 74% had maintained the same habits for more than 3 years. Only 11% reported significant change in financial or professional position during that period. The rest described a feeling of growth with no external evidence that another person could verify. 74% of discipline producing 11% of result. Those numbers need to enter your body, not just your mind. Think of Marcia Costa, a business owner in Belo Horizonte. She woke up at 5 in the morning for 6 years, following a rigid routine of meditation, exercise, and planning. She celebrated her discipline on social media. She received admiration from hundreds of followers. Her company remained at the same monthly revenue of 45,000 reais throughout that entire period while she perfected the routine. Marcia's problem was not lack of discipline. It was an excess of comfort within the discipline. She had built a structure so predictable, so controlled, so safe, that no real risk could get in. And without real risk, no new result was possible. Say this aloud. A routine that produces no new result is not discipline. It is organized resistance to change. Napoleon Hill observed that the men he studied between 1908 and 1928 did not have the most rigid routines. They had the fastest decisions. Carnegie was not known for his perfect morning. He was known for the speed with which he identified an opportunity and threw everything into it before anyone realized what was happening. Edison did not follow a fixed laboratory protocol. He stayed awake until he solved the problem, slept when he needed to, and came back with more intensity. Ford did not have a 5 in the morning routine celebrated in books. He had an obsession that reorganized everything around it, including time itself. Let me tell you something that will change how you see every morning from now on. The question is not whether you completed your routine today. The question is, did this routine alter your financial position, your network of contacts, or your portfolio of measurable results this week? If the answer is no for more than 2 consecutive weeks, you are not being disciplined. You are being consistent in the wrong direction. A routine must be a launch pad, not a destination. It exists to put you in the right state to make decisions that involve risk, confrontation, and irreversible consequence. When it becomes the destination itself, when completing the routine becomes the goal of the day, it stops being a tool and becomes a trap. A very well-organized, very well-documented, very well-praised trap by the people around you. Write this down. The world does not reward routines. The world rewards results, and results only appear when you use the energy of your routine to do something you have never done, to go somewhere you have never been, to become someone you have not yet become. If this content is reorganizing something inside you, subscribe to this channel. Because what you are hearing here is not weekend motivation, it is reprogramming. And reprogramming demands repetition. Come back here every day. Everything you heard here today can stay only in the realm of ideas, or it can become a structured process of real transformation. The 21-day mental reprogramming planner was created for exactly that. To take what you understood here and turn it into decisions, into new habits, into results that show up in the external world. The link is in the first pinned comment. Here is the truth that nobody tells you when they sell you a productivity course, a goal app, or a habits book. The personal development industry was not built to transform you. It was built to make you feel like you are transforming. And that difference is worth billions of dollars to those who sell it and years lost to those who buy it. The belief started in the 1980s. Stephen Covey, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, brilliant men who popularized a powerful idea, that planning equals advancing, that consuming knowledge puts you ahead, that maintaining rigid routines separates winners from losers. This narrative dominated because it offered something no real result can deliver at the same speed: immediate comfort. You do not need to risk. You do not need to confront. You do not need to decide anything irreversible. You just need to buy the next book, download the next app, follow the next routine. Say this aloud: immediate comfort and real transformation rarely appear together. The productivity industry moves $58 billion per year, and the main product it sells is not results. It is the feeling of progress, because the feeling of progress can be delivered every day in controlled doses with no risk for the buyer and guaranteed profit for the seller. You receive dopamine, they receive money, and your position in the world remains exactly where it was when you made your first purchase. Napoleon Hill called this phantom activity in his 1940 notes. Behaviors that imitate progress but avoid risk, confrontation, and irreversible decision. And what he identified empirically in 1940 was confirmed by decades of neuroscience. Your brain cannot distinguish the feeling of evolving from the feeling of being about to evolve. Both activate the same regions, release the same neurotransmitters, produce the same internal relief. The difference appears only in the external world, and the external world does not lie. Write this down. Your bank account does not read your notebooks. Your market does not evaluate your routines. Your results do not appear because you consumed the right content. They appear because you made the right decision and executed before you were completely ready. The shift in perspective that Napoleon Hill proposed is not to abandon planning, study, or discipline. It is to subordinate those 3 behaviors to something greater: action with real consequence. Plan in order to execute today. Study in order to decide now. Maintain a routine in order to have enough energy to risk what needs to be risked. When these 3 habits serve execution, they are powerful. When they become the destination, they become the trap. The market sold an illusion. You bought it. Now you know. And knowing changes everything, but only if it is followed by an irreversible decision made before this video ends. You made it here, and that already says something about who you are. Most people would have stopped halfway. They would have heard the first words, recognized the pattern, felt the discomfort, and closed the video. You stayed. And staying until the end of a message like this is not the habit of someone who wants to remain where they are. It is the habit of someone who is ready to move to the next level. But let me tell you something before you close this video and return to your life. Knowing is not enough. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years documenting the principles of success, and the first thing he told anyone who finished reading his work was this: knowledge without decision is useless. You may have heard everything said here today and still change absolutely nothing. Not because the content failed, but because you went back to the routine, to the notebook, to the next video, without making an irreversible decision before the end of the day. Say this aloud: I do not need more information. I need a decision made right now. You discovered today that planning without executing is escape disguised as organization, that consuming knowledge without applying it is accumulation disguised as growth, that maintaining rigid routines without results is comfort disguised as discipline. 3 habits, 3 illusions, 3 different ways of working very hard to stay in the same place. And all of them have one thing in common. They produce the feeling of progress without producing external evidence that another person can verify. Write this down. From today forward, you have a new criterion for evaluating every behavior that occupies your time. Is this habit producing a mark in the real world? Money that came in, a person who said yes, a project that left the page, a position that changed. If the answer is no for more than 2 weeks, you are not growing. You are managing a very well-built illusion. Carnegie built an empire not because he had the most elaborate plan, but because he made decisions before he was completely ready and executed before fear had time to argue. Edison did not invent the light bulb because he consumed the right knowledge. He invented it because he failed more than 1,000 times and treated every failure as data, not defeat. Lincoln did not become the president who changed American history because he had the most rigid routine. He became it because he made the most irreversible decision of his era and did not back down when the entire world pushed back. These men were not different from you in capacity. They were different in the speed between decision and action. And that speed is a choice, not a talent, not a gift, a choice you can make before you go to sleep tonight. Say this aloud: I am someone who decides. I am someone who executes. I am someone whose results show up in the real world. If this message reorganized something inside you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. And write in the comments what city or country you are listening from. We are building a community of people who chose results over illusion. We read and respond to every comment because real transformation does not happen in isolation. It happens in community. This video was not made to be heard once. It was made to be lived every single day. Come back here. Bring someone who needs to hear this. And remember, the world does not reward intention. The world rewards execution.